Hi. Thank you for attending today's reading. Let's begin. My dad tried to throw away my most valuable possessions. Okay, so this happened today. We recently moved and my dad was cleaning up the garage, then I decided to help him. As I was going to throw a piece of trash, I noticed a trash bag. I asked my dad if it was trash. He said yes. I looked through it and saw one of my first baby blanket, my boxing gloves my brother who's in the army bought me a long time ago, and a birthday card, and a medal I got for donating $100 to St. Jude in a charity walk. The worst thing is my dad knew all this stuff meant a lot to me. It's almost like he targeted them. End of story. Next story. That girl that you're good friends with. But you want more. Have you ever had that one girl that you are really good friends with but you have feelings for her? And you don't know if she feels the same way? You don't know if telling them will ruin your friendship. And you keep saying that you are going to tell them how you feel. But you know that you're. Yeah, me too. But the only difference is that I told her how I really felt. So, there is this girl. I think she is so beautiful and funny, and every time we were together, I just had that feeling. But we have been good friends for a long time. And it wasn't until right before we both left for college, when I told her that I had feelings for her. It was hard for me to tell her this because we were such good friends and I didn't want it to make things weird. There was a time when I was dating a girl. We will call her Anna. Not her real name. And it was a pretty good relationship. But like a lot of high school relationships, it came to an end. And I was pretty emotional. And this girl was the first person I called. Literally. Right after Anna broke up with me. Later that day we hung out, and that made me feel better knowing that someone would always be there for me. This is when I started to really fall for her. Just being with her after that day, I started to look at her differently, and I could see the same with the way she looked at me. Or so I thought. So now it's been about a year of me feeling this way about her, and I decided it was time to tell her how I feel. Now I felt bad doing this over text. But it was hard for us to hang out a lot, and I needed to tell her before we both went to college. So I typed a long text telling her how I had feelings for her and how I wanted to know what she thought about that. My heart was racing at this point. I see her typing, and she types for a decent amount of time, and she says, "Oh really? I had no idea you felt that way about me. But if I'm being honest, I can't say I feel the same way about you." That hit me pretty hard. Me thinking this whole time that she felt the same way, and I was expecting her to say that she felt the same. But I guess not. But all in all, we are still good friends and we still talk to each other about things every day. But I still have those feelings and I don't know what to do with them. But this shows that you can tell someone how you feel, and if they feel the same way, then that's great. But if they don't, then accept that and you can still be their friend. End of story. Next story. A night that changed my life forever. One day I was super hungry. But my parents were in another state. Fortunately for me, I knew there was a Quince down the street. You know, those parties that happen when a Mexican girl turns 15. Usually they have bomb food at these parties that I'd get for free. But I didn't know the family that had the party. But I had a friend that knew the birthday girl. She was pretty cool. She was my ticket in. It was about 7 meters when I got off from lifeguarding that night. As I left work, I called up the girl to see if she was ready for me to pick her up. No good. She hadn't even gotten home. So when I got home, I decided to get dressed for this party, although I was in it just for the food. Called her again. Still hadn't gotten home. pissed. Finally it's about 8 p.m. when I have decided to just go to bed. I had just gotten into my PJs and slipped into bed when I got a call from her. Finally, I jumped out of bed, got dressed, hopped in my car, and drove off to her house. When I finally arrived at her house, I had to wait a few minutes before she came out, makeup and all that. Yes. We were heading to the 15. I was so hungry. It took about 30 minutes or so for us to arrive. It was about 9:45-ish. I parked the car but she didn't want to go in. Told me she wanted to wait for her friends to get there. We sat in that cars for hours. Friends arrived. It was empty. The food was all gone. It was about 1 in the morning when we finally went in. No one was there. I was pissed. She told me we could go to Taco Bell. Soul was lifted. She told me she would pay for it all. I couldn't be happier. And she said she would pay for gas. Tears. As soon as we exited the party, it started raining lightly. As I left that parking lot, little did I know my life was going to change forever. I remember going around a curve in the road when I felt the car pull hard. It kinda felt like I went to sleep. When I awoke, I was horrified to see my car wrapped around the tree. Turns out that my car had hydroplaned into a tree. I was stuck in the driver's side. Trying to get out was hopeless. I was pinned against the tree and the car door was so crumpled it couldn't be opened. Then it felt like I was going in and out of consciousness. When I woke up again, a police officer was shining a light in my face asking me questions. Probably seeing if I was under the influence of a substance like drugs or alcohol. But I was able to give him all the correct information as well as emergency contact info. Then I felt like I went to sleep again. I woke up again and I was surrounded by first responders. Flashing lights everywhere. The next thing you know, my car door was ripped off using a machine called the Jaws of Life. Drifted off. Woke up. They were cutting my seat belt and the seat itself to pull me out. Drifted off. Woke up. My seat was removed with me still sitting in it. The responder pulling me to the ambulance told me not to look down. But I did. As I looked down, I was horrified to see my right leg missing. Just mangled flesh and exposed bones. He restrained my head back. The last thing I remember was being placed into the ambulance when they stuck me with something similar to morphine. Then I felt myself falling into a dark void. I kept falling and falling. Then my fall started to slow and slow and slow until I landed in the softest bed. I remember thinking that I was glad that it was all a dream. When I opened my eyes, I was staring at a nurse and he told me that he was glad I was awake. But he had to put me back asleep because I had to go back into surgery. I tried to say something but I couldn't because of the tube down my throat to keep me breathing. Then I was out like a light. When I awoke a second time, I was in the intensive care unit. I looked around to see my family together crying. During that car accident I lost my left leg. Broke my right femur. Left arm was broken. Small intestine was ripped and bleeding. Couple of broken ribs. Bleeding on the lungs. C7 vertebrae fracture that could have paralyzed me. Lost 3 teeth. Left pinky was ripped down to the bone. Left ear was ripped nearly off. And had bleeding on the brain. I was lucky to be alive. I went through a lot that night, guys. My old life died that night but a new life was born. For the next 2 weeks, I remained in the hospital slowly healing. Then after that I started the painful and road of learning to live with my new disability. What I learned about living with disability is that it isn't just about how to recover physically, but how to cope with it mentally. I can't thank my family enough for all the help. All this happened 3 years ago. Today I am currently back working. It's actually my 1-year anniversary at the YMCA. On top of that, I decided to get recertified as a lifeguard. Also, I'm in the process of finishing up my degree. And lastly, today was my first time driving to work since that car accident. No matter the obstacle life throws in your way, you can overcome, guys. Thank you. Smile. Thumbs up. End of story. That is all for today. If you want to support my automated channel, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. See you tomorrow.